Every so often, a message pops up online that feels less like just another social media post and more like, I don't know, a dispatch from the future. Well, recently Elon Musk dropped one of those moments, a tweet that sure, on the surface was about AI, but at its core it was really about a plan to give all of humanity an immortal memory. Let's break down what he's actually proposing here.
Okay, so this is the tweet. It outlines a vision for an AI-powered knowledge base he's calling Grokipedia. You can see it's a mashup of his AI Grok and Wikipedia. But the real ambition, it's hidden right there in plain sight, with the names he chose, Encyclopedia Galactica and the Library of Alexandria. This was so much more than just a product announcement.
It was a declaration of civilizational intent, a blueprint for a memory system designed not just for us, right now, but for anyone or anything that might come after us. A system that could, and this is the crazy part, literally outlast humanity itself.
So to really get a handle on the scale of this whole idea, we have to start with that name, Encyclopedia Galactica. I mean, it's not just some cool-sounding sci-fi label he plucked out of thin air. No, it's a direct reference to one of the most iconic concepts in literary history, from Isaac Asimov's legendary Foundation series.
In Asimov's universe, the encyclopedia wasn't just a big collection of facts, it was a survival toolkit. It was basically humanity's last-ditch effort to preserve its collective knowledge against the forces of chaos and total decay, a kind of cultural self-defense mechanism.
And that right there is the parallel Musk is drawing. See, where Asimov's fictional scholars were fighting a 30,000-year galactic dark age, Musk sees his team at XAI fighting very real, very modern, existential threats. Things like pandemics, or runaway AI, or even nuclear conflict. The goal is exactly the same. Use a comprehensive archive of knowledge as a species-level insurance policy.
Musk's other reference is just as powerful, the Library of Alexandria. Its destruction has haunted humanity for millennia. It's the ultimate symbol, the ultimate proof of just how fragile our collective memory really is.
And it's a pattern that just keeps repeating itself, right? From Alexandria to the destruction of India's Nalanda University, to the sacking of Baghdad's House of Wisdom, where the Tigris River was literally said to have run black with the ink from countless manuscripts. We have always fought a losing battle against fire and war and time.
And this brings us to the question at the absolute heart of Musk's project. How do you solve this ancient problem of forgetting? How do you build a library that is physically impossible to erase?
Well, his answer is basically a three-part engineering plan. First, you decentralize. You don't store knowledge in one place, you store it everywhere. Step 2, you make it durable. Don't just store it digitally on some server. You physically etch copies into materials that can withstand almost anything. And then step 3, the real masterstroke. You go interplanetary. You send copies off-world, creating this redundant archive scattered all across the solar system. Now, this isn't just some philosophical idea. There is a real-world engineering behind it. This is the point where the science fiction starts to look a whole lot like a technical blueprint.
The materials they're looking at are just incredible. I mean, we're talking about storing data in actual strands of DNA, which has an insane density of 215 petabytes per gram, or etching it onto nickel plates and sapphire crystals. But the most mind-bending of all is something called quartz 5D optical storage.
I want you to just look at this number for a second. 13.8 billion. What on earth could that possibly represent?
Years. That is the potential lifespan of a single one of these quartz disks, etched with what are called femtosecond lasers. It's resistant to heat, to radiation, to time itself. It could last for 13.8 billion years. Let that sink in. That is literally the current age of the universe. This technology could create an archive that outlives our own sun.
But look, it's not just about storage. The whole Grokipedia part of the plan is an AI curation engine. This system wouldn't just hold data, it would understand it. It would be ingesting everything in real time, verifying facts, resolving contradictions, and creating this dynamic, self-healing knowledge base. The source material puts it perfectly. It's like Wikipedia, but with a nervous system.
So, the technology is plausible, right? Maybe even inevitable. But that forces us to deal with a set of much deeper, much more complicated questions, not about engineering, but about power and control and philosophy. Because let's be honest, the act of curating all of human knowledge, it's not a neutral one. It never has been. Think about it. Medieval monasteries decided which classical texts survived the Dark Ages. Modern algorithms are filtering the world's information for you right now. If you control a civilization's memory, you control its story of who we are and where we think we're going.
So this leads us to the first big problem. Who gets to be the gatekeeper? Should a private company, accountable really only to its own goals, get to decide which parts of our collective story are important enough to be preserved for eternity? You know, what gets included is just as important as what gets left out.
And that problem gets even messier when you start thinking about our most contested histories. I'm talking about national myths, religious narratives, genocides. There is no single, universally accepted version of these events. So, whose version gets etched into lunar stone and becomes the official, permanent record of our species? The victors?
Now, the proposal suggests that the AI will be the ultimate fact-checker, that it will resolve all these contradictions. But that raises the final and maybe the most profound question of all. When an AI is tasked with settling humanity's most complex and painful debates, who is the final arbiter of truth? The machine? And what values does that machine operate on? And who programmed them?
And you can be sure this isn't going to happen in a vacuum. It will almost certainly trigger a new kind of geopolitical race. And this isn't just for bragging rights. The stakes are immense. For any nation, controlling the official human archive is the ultimate form of soft power. It legitimizes your history, your ideology, your culture on a cosmic scale. So you can bet the US will leverage its dominance in space, China will build its own celestial archives, and other powers like the EU and India will probably push for different ethical frameworks. The race to write our final story might just become the next great game.
And yet, for all of these profound risks, the core impulse behind the project is just powerful. Humanity has survived bad historians and biased records. What we've rarely survived is total amnesia, that complete loss of accumulated knowledge that forces a civilization to hit the reset button.
So if you strip away all the sci-fi and the branding and the controversy, what you're left with is an idea as old as humanity itself, this deep refusal to be forgotten. This isn't just a database. It's a proposal for a civilization's memory palace, one designed to span entire planets and outlast time itself. And that leaves us with one final thought. What happens to a species when it finally refuses to forget?